green bandana, black bandana, black and green bandana, black bandana, black and green bandana, black bandana, black and green bandana, black bandana, black bandana, black and green.
Entonces, qu'est-ce qu'on continue la branche avec la main de main? Qu'est-ce qu'il a dit de moi? Continue la branche. Oh,
black and green. Gang shit, so that we don't play shit. Let it spray shit, like a needle case shit. Let it bang shit, let your colors hang shit. Underpaid shit, chopper stick and flame shit. 38 shit, make you mad today, bitch. We done made it, off the block and skated. Massachusetts made its way to New York State. Plus a peace gang, we can take this whole country. One block at a time, bricks in halves, quarters, dimes. Flip it one more time, stacking paper, got this round. Facts like shit, till we come to real shit. Extra clips, plastic filter to the tip. Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 Tony Montana, he ain't got your shit on us. Now, throw children in the car because we get no fuck. Throw up your flag, throw up your signs and represent. Be with the crew, no keep your guns, slit your neck. We dangerous like Buster Bus in 97. We aiming bustin', you wanna stairway to heaven. I'm about the life, forget the fact I'm fucking white. I got that heart that's soft that put that fucking white. In my kitchen, serving beans, feeding addiction. My money's straight, this life I lead, we fucking bitchin'. I wave them flags with black and green like LA Crips. But we ain't them, this puzzle piece can't need a bitch. Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. Black bandana, black bandana, black and green.
I'm gonna be prepared and stock up on the straight with the grocery store, the Costco, if you will. You get the Folgers if you catch me.
Black bandana, black and green bandana. Black bandana, black and green bandana.
Fool yourself, baby. The Beijing hour from 7 to 7:57. Okay, so that, yeah, it updated again. The Beijing hour. I think it is a good one. That's the news we were just listening to.
Now, with more on what to expect in the stock market this week, here is financial analyst South San.
I think it will be interesting to watch the Chinese stock market this week, its reaction to the recent re-emergence of COVID-19 cases in Beijing. To the extent that the economy shut down again as a result of the pandemic, that would obviously have a very negative impact on market sentiment, and that could translate into lower stock market movement in Asia. As far as the U.S. market, a lot has to do with the data that will be released this week, including the initial jobless claims and the Fed's action. I think what is most important is the Federal Reserve's intent on rate policy and its bond buying program. If the central bank decides to increase its liquidity support, I think that would have a positive impact on the U.S. stock market, even though that might be divorced from the real economy.
It's 38, or rather, that was financial analyst South San talking about what to expect on the stock market this week. It's 38 past the hour. China's introduced a series of measures to reform the China Next Board, and pilot the registration-based initial public offering system. Authorities say measures to regulate IPO registration on the Chi-Next include stricter requirements for information disclosure, as well as legal and financial compliance. The application review process will be open and paperless in order to ease enterprise burden and increase transparency. Measures have also been introduced in areas including shared issuance, convertible corporate bonds, and depository receipts. In late April this year, China decided to pilot the registration-based IPO system on the Chi-Next to replace its approval-based one to better cultivate new industry startups and bolster the real economy. American Express is the first foreign payments network to be licensed to clear renminbi transactions in China. The company says that its joint venture in China, Express Hangzhou Technology Services, has received approval from the country's central bank for a network clearing license. It expects to begin processing transactions later this year. It's built a network to clear domestic transactions charged on American Express branded cards, and the network is also compatible with key mobile payment service providers in China. And with more on this, we spoke to Principal Consultant Mike Baston with Business Development International. How significant is this development for the payment sector in China?
I think it's very significant. I think it would be looked back on as a major step in the further integration of the Chinese economy with the international economy and the financial service sector in particular. So I think it's very, very important and another step in the progress of the Chinese economy.
Well, in China right now, UnionPay solidified its hold on the bank card industry, and tech companies Alibaba and Tencent dominate the mobile payments market. So how do you see the competitiveness of American Express in this mix?
Well, it's not going to be easy. As you said, these have become very successful brands now, Chinese brands in particular. But American Express does carry a certain prestige and a certain brand history. So I think they'll probably look for the sort of upper class or high-end market segment, and could certainly stimulate further competition, which is going to be a good thing.
As more and more foreign payment networks may be licensed in China in the future, what industries will likely benefit the most from all this?
I think the range of industries, really. I think when these licenses are distributed, it provides competition, it provides better choice for the consumer, probably the service sector in particular. I think that consumers will feel more comfortable with this integration taking place. So I think generally it's a very, very welcome announcement we've seen.
That was Principal Consultant Mike Baston with Business Development International, talking about the first foreign payments network licensed in China.
Three Gothic novels, including
the Hainan Free Trade Port is inked 35 investment projects, including 8 foreign funded ones. The value surpassed 6.4 billion yuan, roughly $900 million US. They cover free trade port construction, industrial development, and public services. French energy giant EDF, the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, and China Eastern Airlines are among the participating enterprises. Earlier this month, China released a plan for the Hainan Free Trade Port. It aims to build the whole of Hainan Island into a globally influential high-level free trade port by the middle of the century.
Is this different from
China's mobile phone shipments reached 34 million units in May, declining 12% year-on-year. Shipments of 5G phones reached 16 million units last month, accounting for 46% of the total. 32 new models were introduced in the market. Half of them were 5G models. The country's domestic brands dominated mobile phone shipments in May. Those made by Chinese manufacturers hit 31 million units, making up 92% of the shipments. In the first 5 months of this year, China's mobile phone shipments fell nearly 20% year-on-year to 124 million units. An industry report shows that China's mobile gaming sector continued to grow in May. Sales revenue from the online gaming market reached 17 billion yuan, or around $2.5 billion US last month, up 12% from April. Experts say the longer May Day holiday this year, as well as reduced outings and more playing time at home, are among the factors that drove this growth. Earlier data showed sales revenue in China's mobile gaming market at 151 billion yuan during last year, a year-on-year increase of 13%. A report says sales of China's leading property developers saw robust growth in May. Sales of 100 major property developers rose 21% month-on-month to 1.1 trillion yuan. The figure represented year-on-year growth of 12%. More than two-thirds of these property developers reported rising sales in May compared to April. The report attributed the rising sales to active marketing strategies and increased supply of houses.
Why?
France is accelerating plans to ease the country's coronavirus lockdown. Restaurants and cafes in Paris will be allowed to reopen fully starting from today. French President Emmanuel Macron.
La nouvelle étape qui s'ouvre à partir de demain.
The new phase will allow us to accelerate the economic recovery, and we need it. I'm relying on you because we need to fully start up our economy again, all the while protecting the most vulnerable.
He says the cost of keeping companies afloat and people in jobs will not be passed to households through taxes.
Nous ne financerons pas ces dépenses en augmentant les impôts.
We will not finance spending by increasing taxes. Our country already has one of the highest tax burdens, even if we have started to lower it over the last 3 years. The only answer is to build an economic model which is sustainable, stronger, to work more and produce more, so we don't depend on others.
COVID-19's exposed France's reliance on global supply chains, from the car industry to smartphones and pharmaceuticals. The government expects the economy to shrink by 11% this year. A central bank report shows that the amount of non-cash payments by banks in China went down 5.2% year-on-year in the first quarter of the year. The amount of money involved in non-cash payments, including commercial papers, bank cards, and online payment vehicles, reached 900 trillion yuan in the period. More than 8 billion bank cards were in use at the end of March, up 1.3% from a quarter ago. Each Chinese person owned 6 bank cards on average. Mobile payments sustained growth in the first 3 months as banks and financial institutions transacted 90 trillion yuan of mobile payments, up 5% year-on-year. Non-bank payment vehicles transacted 60 trillion yuan in the first quarter, also up 5% in the same period of last year. The production and sales of commercial vehicles in China saw notable growth in May. Last month, the output of commercial vehicles in the country came in at 530,000, and sales reached 520,000 units, with both up nearly 50% year-on-year. Truck output grew 53% from a year ago to around 500,000 units in May, while sales rose 53% to 480,000 units. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, Real Madrid earns a win in its first La Liga game following the lockdown. The Beijing Hour.
Hi, I'm Kathy Freeman. You're listening to the Beijing Hour.
Hi everyone, I'm Lang Lang. Welcome to the Beijing Hour. The Beijing Hour. To China and the world.
It's 47 past the hour now. And turning to sports, here's Yang.
Thank you, Shane. Real Madrid resumed its La Liga campaign with a 3-1 win of Eibar in a game without spectators. The Bernabeu Stadium is being renovated, so Real played its home game on a pitch at the club's training base. Toni Kroos, Sergio Ramos, and Marcelo scored a goal each. They also marked Real manager Zinedine Zidane's 200th game in charge.
Football is totally different now as it used to be, and we need to adapt ourselves. I think we started the game very well, but we struggled in the second half. I don't think it was only a physical problem, because I think we are in a good shape. I think it was a bit of everything in general.
The victory kept Madrid 2 points behind Barcelona, which returned on Saturday with a 4-0 rout at Mallorca. Lionel Messi scored 1 and set up 2 more goals. The game played behind closed doors was interrupted by a man who invaded the pitch in the second half trying to take a selfie with Messi. The man was escorted off by security, and the La Liga says it will take legal action against him. Elsewhere, Atletico Madrid was denied 3 points with a 1-0 draw with Athletic Bilbao. Atletico remains 6th on the table.
But I did have another example.
In the German Bundesliga, Schalke played to a 1-0 draw with Bayer Leverkusen and is now winless in 15 games. Leverkusen boosted its Champions League hopes by moving up to 4th place on the table, 5 points behind the 3rd place RB Leipzig. Earlier in the day, Augsburg edged the Mainz, while Nyon and eased its relegation worries. In Saturday's action, Leon Goretzka scored a late winner to help Bayern Munich beat Borussia Mönchengladbach 2-1 in a game without suspended duo Thomas Müller and Robert Lewandowski. Bayern in a 7-point lead on top now only needs to win against Werder Bremen on Wednesday to seal an 8th successive Bundesliga title.
See what I just did? This is no, because I'm looking at
And
the back
Borussia Dortmund edged Dusseldorf 1-0 in an early game in Saturday, with the substitute Erling Haaland scoring the lone goal in stoppage time.
It's a 2007,
Paris Saint-Germain says both Alisson, Cavani and Diogo Silva will leave the club this summer. 33-year-old Cavani arrived at PSG in 2013 from Napoli, and since then he has scored 200 goals, becoming the all-time leading scorer. 35-year-old Silva signed from Milan back in 2012 and is now the captain of the team. Both players' contracts are due to expire this month, and the PSG will not have extension offers. PSG was crowned League One champions in April when the league brought the season to an end over coronavirus concerns. The capital team is still in competition in the Champions League this season, having reached the quarterfinals.
1909-2009.
In tennis, Novak Djokovic bowed out of his Austria tour despite victory over Alexander Zverev in front of home fans. World number 1 won in straight sets, but only saw fellow Serbian player Filip Krajinovic into the final. Djokovic's event, the first elite men's tennis since it was suspended by COVID-19, attracted 4,000 fans. Krajinovic later lost to world number 3 Dominic Thiem in the final. Djokovic set up the tournament to help players get back to fitness after several weeks without competition. The next leg takes place in Croatia this weekend, but the tournament's third leg, scheduled for Montenegro, has been cancelled over coronavirus concerns. Djokovic says they're trying to stage the event at an alternative location.
Of course, I feel sad and disappointed. We have tried very hard to carry that out, and it did not come to a realization. There's nothing more to it. We're turning a new page. We do have several options. We have several other locations, but I will not reveal them at this point.
Meanwhile, several top 10 players also competing in the Ultimate Tennis Showdown, the event created by Serena Williams coach Patrick Montenegro in Nice, France, got underway on Sunday after being delayed 24 hours because of bad weather. Matches are being held without spectators. Matteo Berrettini, Feliciano Lopez, and Richard Gasquet took victories in the first day's action.
Thank you very much for the update. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in entertainment, new release dates for some upcoming Hollywood blockbusters.
Join the most popular Chinese language learning page on Facebook by searching for CRI Learn Chinese. It's a quick yet fun way to achieve your language goals. Start your free lessons now with unlimited videos, photos, and text tutorials on expressions and Chinese culture. CRI Learn Chinese Facebook page. The world opens with
they have the largest population of English speakers in the world. That's the United States.
The Beijing Hour. The Beijing Hour. The Beijing Hour brings you an hour of comprehensive news and information from both China and the rest of the world. A mix of news, sports, and entertainment. In-depth analysis of the day's big stories, as well as the most comprehensive business of the day. Beijing Hour. Beijing Hour. Your very own window to China and the rest of the world.
It's 52 minutes past the hour. Turning to entertainment now, Warner Brothers has announced that Christopher Nolan's big-budget sci-fi film Tenet will finally hit the screen on July 31st.
It'll open the right doors. Some of the wrong ones, too.
The studio says it'll delay the release by 2 weeks and instead reissue Nolan's 2010 sci-fi blockbuster Inception in mid-July. Tenet will arrive in theaters a week after Disney's live-action version of Mulan is released on July 24th. Warner Brothers also announced that...
What the fuck is Mulan? You don't know? I don't know what the fuck is Mulan. What the fuck is Mulan? So I'm doing this right now, not later. What the fuck is Mulan? Yeah, I don't know. What is Mulan? What is Mulan? I don't know. Putting the branch, I think he'll not say qu'est-ce que Mulan. It didn't do nothing. I thought it would go back one. Okay. Play, motherfucker.
% of its locations open by mid-July. The U.S. National Association of Theater Owners expects that 90 to 95% of cinemas around the world will be open by then as well. The organization that hands out the Academy Awards said it'll form guidelines that filmmakers will have to meet in order for their works to be eligible for the Oscars. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences says the move and other steps represent a new phase of a 5-year effort to promote diversity.
I do not feel elevated above any of my fellow nominees or anyone in this room because we share the same love, the love of film.
Actor Joaquin Phoenix there. The organization's been criticized for honoring new movies and creators of color. The criticism intensified in 2015 with the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite, a backlash against an all-white field of acting contenders. The rules will not apply to films vying for the Oscars at the next ceremony. That's, of course, coming up in 2021. Popular Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput has been found dead in his Mumbai home. He was found on Sunday. Reports say the 34-year-old actor was found hanging inside of his apartment. Mumbai police confirmed the death and said details are being investigated. Rajput, who started as a TV actor, made his Hollywood debut in 2013. His career highlights include playing former Indian cricket team captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni in the 2016 film MS Dhoni, The Untold Story.
Mahendra Singh Dhoni, ticket collector, Southeastern Railway, reporting for duty, sir. Dhoni finishes off in style.
Rajput was last seen in the 2019 Netflix film Drive. Social media was flooded with condolences for the actor in India, with many reacting to the news with disbelief. Hong Kong Ocean Park reopened to the public after shutting down for 4 months. All guests have to wear masks and have their temperatures checked before entering. Hand sanitizer is also being given out at the entrance.
I feel today or the reopen of
what I gotta do to get
Ocean
in.
Park
That's
is
what the mask was for.
a little victory for Hong Kong people by showing that we take a quite success control measures, and that's why we can come here today.
The next couple of weeks, capacity will be limited to 9,000 guests per day. Both Ocean Park and Hong Kong Disneyland shut down in late January because of the COVID-19 outbreak. Hong Kong Disneyland has not yet announced a date for reopening. 56 past the hour. Checking the forecast before we go. In Beijing, will be sunny and 36 degrees Celsius. Clear skies this evening with a low of 22. Chongqing will be cloudy and 32, then dipping down to 26. Last is overcast and 26, a low of 12. Hong Kong will see thunder showers today with a high of 30 and a low of 26. In North America, Washington, D.C. will be overcast and 25 degrees Celsius. New York City is getting sunny skies and 26. In Africa, Nairobi is getting a slight rain and 22. And finally, to Oceania, Port Vila is going to get a slight rainfall and 27 Celsius.
Why would they give
That's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news this morning, the Chinese capital has recorded more than 50 new COVID-19 cases in the past 4 days, all linked to a wholesale food market. In the meantime, officials in Beijing say the overall supply of daily necessities in the city remains stable despite the outbreak. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the...
Black bandana, black and green bandana, black bandana, black and green.
Back to Washur Raymond, Washur Richard, Washur Michelle. Did you think the Frenchman going to Hong Kong? Yes, they did.
Welcome to Chinese Studio.
The Frenchman in Hong Kong. Washur Michelle.
Keywords of the day.
A
pair of
chopsticks.
一双筷子 a spoon 一把勺子
Yeah, you know the word for coffee. Do you know the word for spoon?
一个碗
Oh, shit. You know the
Well,
word for sugar. Do you know the word for
say a
spoon for
pair
the...
of
Oh.
Okay,
What's
a
wrong
pair
here?
of
Milk you have
in
sugar?
Chinese it's 一双 the fourth tone and the first tone
一双
chopsticks in Chinese it's 筷子 the fourth tone and the light tone
筷子
so a pair of chopsticks you can say 一双筷子
一双筷子
and this is how you say I like a pair of chopsticks 请给我拿双筷子
请给我拿双筷子
请 the third tone means please
请
给我 the second tone and the third tone which means to me
给我
拿 the second tone, which means brain or take.
People don't like to admit the way you say something means something.
The first tone,
they have it right in their
which is measure word for chopsticks, and it's short for yi shuang.
Like a dialect.
So how do you say a pair of chopsticks?
Yi shuang.
We use it all the time, but
and then how do you say, please bring me a pair of chopsticks?
If all these people didn't use it that way, then no, it wouldn't be a language. They all do, so.
一把勺子。
一把勺子。
一 the first tone, which means one.
Language survival kit.
把 the third tone, which is the measure word for spoon.
Language
Here
survival
it's
kit.
short
What
for
the fuck happened?
一把, which means one.
2100. You find this in like a Ziploc.
勺子 the second tone.
What was going on back then? COVID. So it's the top of the hour. Why are they still doing the? For some reason, this damn thing was running on and on. So how about I just click? I didn't touch anything yet. That's just a while ago, so I'm just gonna hit dismiss. You are dismissed. Oh, it's got a snooze button too. And then you can set how long the snooze is. Oh, it should just be 10 minutes automatically, right? Oh, you can set it for whatever you want.
Be able to say, I would like a pair of chopsticks.
3 minutes snooze.
明天见。
明天见。
I need the alarm to go off, bang, and then 3 minutes later I'm good. Yeah, if that's your thing, this stupid. That's why I fuck with this till I get to do what I want. It's officially Monday.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the world.
So is this 0800 AM in China? Because it's 8 p.m. here. But you motherfuckers
now the
don't
news
use a 24-hour clock, do you?
8 more COVID-19 cases have been detected in Beijing as of 7 a.m. on Sunday. This brings the total number of new cases in the city since June 11th to 51. Beijing reported 0 local transmissions for 56 days before June 11th. Xinfadi Market, the large wholesale food market in Fengtai district, has been caught in the spotlight after a new coronavirus cluster was linked to it. The city has suspended the wholesale market and strengthened control measures to contain the spread of the outbreak. The Municipal Health Commission says personnel who have had close contact with the market since May 30th will undergo nucleic acid testing.
Yeah, you need it because there's some
Deputy Mayor Deng Huilin of Chongqing Municipality is under investigation for suspected violations of discipline and law. Deng is also head of the city's Public Security Bureau. The investigation is being carried out by the Communist Party of China Central Commission for Discipline Inspection and the National Supervisory Commission. China is ready to launch the last satellite for its Beidou 3 navigation system, scheduled for the end of the month. The satellite has completed technical testing, pre-launch procedures, and more, while the rocket has also gone through all of its testing procedures. The rocket is scheduled to be fueled today. Chen Huaqiang is the chief of the testing station at the Xichang Satellite Launch Center.
After the rocket propellants are added into the rocket, if they are put there for one time, the rocket's temperature will have a big change. For instance, the air temperature, humidity, and dew point will change significantly. At the same time, we should work out the required temperature and propellant filling volume for the control system of the rocket according to the air temperature conditions.
The Chinese-made Beidou navigation satellite system aims to develop space infrastructure for accurate navigational, positioning, and timing services. China began to build the Beidou 3 system in 2009. Chinese authorities have activated an emergency response amid heavy floods triggered by rainstorms in Guizhou. A special work team has been sent to the affected areas to provide guidance in disaster relief. The floods have affected over 430,000 residents as of Sunday, leaving 10 dead and 14 others missing. About 100 houses have collapsed, while over 8,000 have been damaged. And the direct economic losses estimated at over $120 million. Atlanta police have released dramatic body camera and dash camera video of an African-American man killed during an unrest. 27-year-old Rashard Brooks was shot dead when police responded to reports that he had fallen asleep at a fast food restaurant inside his car.
The
video showed the interaction between two officers and Brooks on Friday in the restaurant's parking lot before he's shot as he tries to escape.
That's the other thing. The Chinese guys are going to kill you for running. They're going to chase your ass down. They're not going to be, oh, you made me run.
Brooks was asked to take a field sobriety test. There's a 26-minute exchange between the men. But when he was being put in handcuffs, Brooks struggled with the two officers and is seen grabbing a taser from an officer. As he's running away, he points it at them and continues to run before he's shot 3 times. His killing has sparked protests and condemnation. Officer Gary Rove, who allegedly killed Brooks, has been fired. Authorities in Southern California are investigating 2 separate deaths of African-American men found hanging from trees. 24-year-old Robert Fuller was found hanging on Wednesday in the city of Palmdale. Protesters marched from the scene of Fuller's death near City Hall to the Sheriff's Department to demand a full investigation. Authorities vowed to investigate the death after the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office ruled it a suicide. Last month, 38-year-old Malcolm Harsh was found hanging from a tree near the Victorville City Library. A delegation from the Russian Emergencies Ministry visited the site of a diesel spill near the remote Arctic city of Norilsk. The officials visited 3 sites where work is being carried out to clean up the spill. That's the news. I'm Wenjie.
It's rough somewhere. Isn't that funny? What the casket company here?
Coming to you live from Beijing.
The casket company here is Victoria.
Round Table.
Connecting China and the world.
We bring you fun and timely discussions about what's affecting our lives everywhere, every day. Tune in to Round Table, where the East meets the West, and understanding meets the goal.
Wouldn't even think about it.
You're listening to a flashback of Roundtable, an in-depth discussion on the hottest topics in China.
No problems with neighbors. The snow gets taken away, the garbage gets taken away, the salt, everything perfectly.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable. Coming to you live from Beijing. I'm He Yang, joined by Lai Ming and Neela in the studio. Good as always to have you for this ride. We have some fascinating topics for discussion today and every day. On today's program, I'd like to ask you to do a little favor right now. Get out of your phone from your pocket and do some counting for me, will ya? How many apps do you have on your smartphone, and how many of those do you ever use on a regular basis?
I guarantee this is going to be
and
interesting.
Keep that number at heart, and we'll get into that soon. And apparently, millennials in the U.S. are going through a mental health crisis, according to a few media reports, and with the coronavirus still ongoing, this is not making the lives of people any easier. We'll talk about this rather sensitive topic for a lot of people that folks are kind of afraid to open up about this, for a lot of people actually, but the mental health status through a coronavirus outbreak. You can find us on Apple Podcast at Roundtable China. Subscribe, rate, and review us. It will help other folks to find the show. But first, on today's Roundtable, when we go to the bank, shopping mall, or restaurants, or when you're out and about in town, it's pretty common that you're asked to install apps just so that you can use a particular service. However, this results in our smartphones being flooded with apps that sometimes just forget about them. Rarely do you use them. It's pretty common for people. So, guys, let's have our RT competition first. Let's get out of our phones that's on flight mode. Who's got the least number of apps is my question. And let's do a little bit of counting. And Lai Ming, how many have you got?
I got 93.
You've got 93?
93, yeah.
But you're the relative tech nerd on the show today.
Yeah, so I have an app for my router. I have an app for the lights in my home. I can turn them on and off. I can switch them to moonlight mode.
And I have one app just for one single sweeping robot. So I think
sweeping robot.
Yeah, and there's also one for State Grid where I can log in to check the amount of funds I have for my electricity bills.
Don't you have that function embedded on WeChat or Alipay, a whole bunch of other
you can pay your bills. I mean, you can pay your electricity bills with Alipay, but I'm not sure you can see exactly how much money you've got left.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Because if you run out of funds, you'll be dark, you know.
Well, you can just place a number of, funds in there, so then, okay, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, why keep a huge amount of money for something that's not a financial service?
When you don't get interest from it.
Not at all.
Fair point, Liming. What about you, Neela?
I've got 89. I mean, I know before we started the show, I counted, I had 86, but then I just realized I've got a few more in a folder hidden somewhere. And I just realized, no wonder I never find my calculator when I'm looking for it. So I just located it on my phone.
Yeah.
It somehow went into some folders called utilities.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Maybe it was an accident. Sometimes
I think so.
Yeah, you just press on the icon for just one second too long and then accidentally drag them somewhere and then you can't find it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so was that 82?
I've got 89.
89.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys, I have to say, this has surprised me to my utter core. Because I'm the cave person, you guys are usually so much better than I am with technology, and also you know what the latest tech trends are, and Liming.
You got more apps than
I'm so surprised! I got 96!
Because otherwise they'll touch something.
Oh wow! So I've got the list. Yay!
You're the winner! Oh my god! I did feel like I've always been thinking I must be the one person in the world with so many apps on my phone. I'm quite surprised actually you guys have more than me. Yeah, and this is when I have also actually. I probably have more because there are a couple of folders I just couldn't be bothered and didn't have enough time to go.
Yeah, probably.
That's typical cave woman.
Why is that typical cave person? If it's a cave person, well, maybe I should shrug off that, tag from me, considering that a cave person should probably not even know how to make up a folder to start with on a smartphone. But I have a couple of folders there, and I don't know how many apps are in there. So I definitely have hit the 100 mark. And
good job.
Just as this is why I realize if you put your apps in folders, then you end up downloading more and more apps. That's the reason why I do not use folders, because then I want to see how many apps. I mean, I feel guilty every time I download a new app, and I feel like I have way too many.
Why would you feel guilty though?
Because I don't think we need any more. I've told myself over and over again, I don't need any more apps, because the lesser apps I have on my phone, the less I have to charge my phone, because the more apps you have, the more it eats up your phone battery.
It has something to do with that? Now I feel like a cave person. Back to the cave person status.
Yeah, and I don't need to worry about or be anxious about my battery having to drain very quickly all the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes I sit down and delete things that I feel like I don't use anymore, like things like Snapchat. I had a Snapchat page, and honestly I didn't get the gist of it, so I decided to get rid of it. And when I was going through my apps, I have so many here that I feel like they're totally useless, and I don't even know why I have them.
That's a really good question. And also just to sort of get on that train a little bit further, considering that we have so many apps and we don't use them that often, but there are some of us who are engaged in this futile attempt of trying to organize them.
Well, I organize them.
So how have you done that?
I put them, they're mainly located in two pages, actually. Unlike Neela, who don't put them into photos.
I have pages. I flip them through like a book.
I've got only 2 pages. So on the second page, there are plenty of photos where I put like office tools like Word, Excel, and then a voice recording software called Twisted Wave, and then some other. Wow, I just realized that I got 3 apps for the private cloud I bought. So there's a
fancy private cloud.
there's an admin tool and this file system, and there's also something that allows me to share my data with my computer and with my smartphone. So this is for productivity, and there's a photo for travel, and I put all the online travel agencies and airline applications and railway ticket booking systems. So a lot of them related to traffic and also navigation system. They're all there. And then I have the utility where I place what I said earlier, my router, my control, my remote control of the lights at home, and there's also health-related stuff. Like I need to book appointments for my mom when they're here, so there are 2 apps that I can do that. And then the last one would be the finance, where I put online shopping applications and also banks.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me in the sense that I don't have to scroll so many times. I know if I want to go, let's say Taobao, I go straight to finance and I'll be able to see it. Yeah. And also a lot of thoughts went into this because I had to uninstall some banks applications, but nonetheless I hid them. Right. So I'm hiding them in the second page of the folder.
Well, you certainly sound very organized, but for me, I don't arrange them like that because just for the simple reason I just don't like a folder, like having to deal with folders and folders and folders. I just like to see everything there. So what I do is I try not to put social media apps on the first page.
No,
I don't do that. So
where's your WeChat app then?
Okay, my WeChat, because my WeChat, I use it a lot more to pay stuff. So it's got to be on. I don't view it as a social media network. I view it as my bank account of sorts, because I use it to pay for things a lot. So I put it on the first page, and also because we communicate a lot, text messaging and phone call through WeChat. So it's important to me. So I put it on the first page. And then I've got the currency exchange. I've got DD. I've got radio apps, an app for different radios around the world. I've got Duolingo for language study.
I've got that too.
I've got a map. I've got photos. I've got the camera. I've got the weather on the first page, and then settings, of course, and then the calendar.
So hey, wait. You don't count settings in the
days, so I have to go to the calendar to remember myself. Then on the second page, here's when I put all my social media.
The system says, yeah, that's an app when it's counted.
Apps that I relatively use a little bit more often, like my bank account, etc. And then you've got apps, like extension apps, or apps that, for example, when I need to scan something and I'm very close to a scanner, then that goes to the third page. We've got,
So you basically organize according to
how useful they are.
Yeah, and also there's a little bit of self-discipline that's kept in there too.
Exactly. That's one particular reason I didn't want to put like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter on my first page and quite sure TikTok on the first page, because then at the end of the day when I turn on my phone, then I'm prompted to just waste my time looking through them. So it takes me a while before I can realize when I'm scrolling to the second page, or flip to the second page, that's when I can see them and maybe check what's happening, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, Neela, has it actually reduced the hours you spend on social media?
Yes, because I tend to check every week. I think my phone sends me the breakdown of my productivity time, how much time, how my screen time I spent in that particular week. So each time I see I'm getting less screen time, I push myself to maybe try and next time to have 1 or 2 minutes less screen time. So it's kind of have been actually helpful.
Right. So actually since 2015, more or less, we've entered this era of an explosion of all kinds of apps and asking you to download that kind of thing.
There's an app for everything these days.
Exactly. And I'm just wondering, is that a bad thing? Why is it that there are a lot of complaints that sort of circling on social media and just people's chats that there's way too many? Is it that we are rather poor in controlling ourselves in utilizing these things, or is it that these apps are simply not great?
Well, there are all kinds of complaints about apps. I mean, for one thing, I would protest against such apps that would attract you to binge watch, like Kuaishou and TikTok, because I don't have them on my phone. But other people are complaining about other things. Apparently, a girl named Huang found a newly opened convenience store, of which the environment was pretty good, and she went there and did some picking, and when she was about to check out, the cashier, I'm not sure we'd still get to call them cashiers, but the cashier says, no, you don't have to pay here. Just download this app and scan the barcodes, and you will be able to pay for your stuff all by yourself. So she did that, and she went to a lot of trouble looking for a link where she could download the app. And after she was done downloading the app, she just went home. And it was until after she was home that she realized that something was missing. And then she took the stuff that she bought out of the refrigerator, scanned the barcode, and then paid for the stuff she bought. So the cashier was responsible for convincing her that she should install this application.
So technically, you go to a store and you are a buyer at the same time you do a job of a cashier or the store attendant.
Well, it happens in the U.S. as well. I mean, if you go to CVS pharmacy, they do have the option for you to do that for yourself.
But if it's self-service, then you know it's self-service, and you have that choice to go and do that. Like, nobody's forcing you. But when stores start forcing you to download, first of all, I'm bringing you my money, and then you're forcing me to, before I can walk out the store and with the stuff I want, I have to download an app.
That was close.
Log in and put in, register my account, blah blah blah. It's just a lot of bull, if you ask me.
And also, a while ago, a year ago, I think, I saw this piece of news of college students in China. Well, they don't enjoy the best kind of, well, I suppose, dorm living conditions. Because a lot of these universities, they're so massive, and when they're housing, let's say, 20,000 students, and taking a hot shower can be a little bit of a difficult thing sometimes. And apparently there could be an app for that too. So the school
accessing the hot shower
asked the students to download an app, and therefore they can pay for the hot showers through the app.
Well, back in nowadays, we use a card, so we can put money in there, and we swipe the card to access, to actually turn on the tap. And so the money is counted based on how much time you spent under the hot water. And when you're done, you remove the card, and that's okay. So I don't think having an app for that should be not too bad a thing. Because really, you've got to have something to access the service on campus. I mean, now that we all have a smartphone, it makes a lot of sense for students to have that application on their phone.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I mean, I wouldn't mind having to download it if it meant accessing hot water. I mean, I will go to all sorts of lengths because I cannot shower with cold water. So to me, that's okay. So to me, it's a necessity. First of all, I would find it a bit more convenient than having a card, because I tend to misplace cards, or maybe you have to go to find some office and have to pay. Whereas if you just have your cell phone and an app in there, that's fine. What I find it to be so inconveniencing is supermarkets. I've been to a supermarket like the person you were talking about, Lai Ming, here in Shijingshan, and I came across this supermarket. It's a small supermarket. They sell foreign stuff, imported meat, fish and stuff. And so I thought, wow, I don't have to go to Sam's Club anymore and spend and buy things in bulk. I can just go to this store. So I go there, and after taking a few things off the shelf, and first of all, I had a cola, and I had maybe a few vegetables only. And then I go to the teller to pay stuff for the stuff, and they tell me you have to download an app to pay. You know what I did? I just left the stuff there and walked out the store. Yeah, I was like, why? Why can't you take money? Yeah, why can't I pay with WeChat or Alipay?
You ask a really good question, because ultimately it's like, why do we need why are we being asked to download one app after another? And also to the hot shower thing. Actually, I can understand why some students are complaining about that. It's basically, who's behind this app? Who's behind all this, getting all this information? Why do we need to get another app for another thing? And when some of this stuff, well, because once you've attracted people onto your singular platform, well, we all know data means everything apparently, although sometimes the financial value of it doesn't turn up immediately, but data mining and long-term analysis of your users, that's probably really valuable in the digital age and all that. But also just to get people to your particular place and keeping them there, that seems to be what a lot of the tech companies are trying to do, instead of, let's say, adding this function to WeChat or another huge platform that already exists. Then that's the big platform that's getting all that useful data and traffic and all that. So is that pretty much, the reason why these apps are just, they have been in the last few years become all the rage, and people are finding it as a nuisance when you have to download another thing for this one thing that you're doing for one time?
I mean, for me, I would think, for example, I just don't mindlessly, download any app just because I need to download it. I ask myself, is there another way I can access this service that's much easier? Yes, you did ask previously, if it was a good or bad thing for us to have so many apps. Well, it is good that we have these apps because it's so convenient. I can buy anything. I can order stuff from the supermarket while sitting on the subway. In the middle of the night, I can order groceries because, number one, so it brings that convenience, and also it's just much easier, for example, for let's say companies or things that we needed to access, and then we had to go on the website, and you couldn't remember the URL, but for apps, you just have to remember the company's name, and you go on the app and you place an order, blah blah blah. But if it's easier for me to use their website, why do I need an app? If I can walk to the store, why do I need an app? And if I can pay with cash, why do I need an app?
Well, what do you think, Lai Meng?
Well, I think there are many ways to look at this. I think specifically in the context of university or campus apps, I think is totally okay. I mean, a lot of the universities, they already have a smart system behind all kinds of services that they're providing. So every college student will be able to have their own identity, digital identity, for services on campus. For instance, access to the library, access to databases that the college has already paid for, and then to top up the cafeteria cards, that sort of thing, and also to access hot water. So it's access to a comprehensive set of services, and a lot. It's not a step further to. It's only a small step further to have them relocated to an app that
unless you're coming from China, for some reason you got to pay 10 grand.
So I don't think that's strange. And then the other things that I might find a little bit uncomfortable with downloading applications, for instance, I think Alibaba actually started it first. I mean, their exemplary Hema Fresh shopping mall was one of the earliest services to say that you walk in, you need to download an app, and you don't need to use cash. And actually, the People's Bank of China, they came out against this kind of practice, in the sense that it is a form of bias against people who don't necessarily own smartphones. It is a form of bias against people who are not tech savvy. It is against people who probably can't afford a smartphone, or people who haven't had the education to operate a smartphone. And that includes a lot of people.
China,
I think the latest figure about Chinese internet users was somewhere about 900 million. They don't care. And most of them, almost 97% of them access the internet via a smartphone, but that still leaves hundreds of millions of people who don't own a smartphone. And a lot of them will just happen to be people that are underprivileged. I mean, could be people of my parents' generation who didn't receive education, but nonetheless they want to look for job opportunities in the big city. Guess what they have to deal with when every supermarket, every seller says you need to have a smartphone in order to enjoy our service. I mean, that's making their lives very, very harsh and terrible. And it's not fair for them.
Well, except in supermarkets, you can still pay with cash, although I look really badly at people who like stand there at different notes and start looking for change and stuff. I'm like, why can't you just use your phone? But you see, with supermarkets, generally, I think in most stores, you still have that option to pay with cash. So that's good. Yeah. And I feel like companies now just have the need to have apps, not because it's necessary, but because they feel like if you don't have an app, you're not following the trend. You're not in the now, and they don't want to be left out.
And actually, I'm seeing that maybe the tide is possibly tipping slightly towards a different direction, because we've had these years of another company come up with their own app. I mean, please don't write that in your company newsletter. When I receive that in my email box, I'm rolling my eyes. My eyeballs are almost out of my skull, because that does not make news, okay? And I'm so sick and tired of it. I got that out of my system. And then so I'm seeing that now, because it's annoyed so many people, and we have limited space on our interfaces, although, the what do you call it, the storage space on our smartphones are ever growing these days. But my point here being that maybe we're gently entering possibly a new era. I say this tentatively, of consolidation of apps, and maybe generation apps. I'm just saying that these companies, because they realize when they're coming up with new apps, they need to hire a whole team to do it. It's a lot of investment that goes into it, and then there's maintenance fees that goes afterwards. Then maybe, possibly, do you see the future being that maybe we'll see a little bit of less of the new apps and consolidation of what's already there, or some of the apps are just going to be phased out?
I think companies are on different stages in terms of making the business to the digital space. And because of COVID-19, we see more companies that previously was lagging behind in moving to the cyberspace are actively doing it. So it's going to take a while before we see a decrease in the number of apps. Actually, I don't see a decrease in the number of apps. Although
we're just going to end up with giant phones.
Yeah, although companies like Alibaba are intensively trying to incorporate a lot of the essential functions that can be used in the app into their own applications like WeChat and Alipay.
Yeah, well, it's a fierce competition that we're seeing in that landscape. We'll be back after this break.
Looking for passion? How about fiery debate? Want to hear about current events in China from different perspectives? Then tune in to Roundtable.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing.
Roundtable.
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 Connecting China and the world.
We bring you fun and timely discussions about what's about.
Roundtable.
I didn't do that. That skip there wasn't me. That was that. It's my belt. See, I gotta get this. What's thinking about loops? Some of them are busted here. Okay, we reloaded. We're reloaded. I want to see the next schedule. Play or not.